quite different. I got recruited to go on this mission trip, or fly as a missionary, and go to Cuba and be scoping out some Chinese stuff, making some contacts out there. And I did the thing. I acted like an absolute clown, and I was super loud. I kind of acted probably how Archer would at that show. And they essentially, when I got back, they decided that I was way too loud and not sneaky at all to be doing this stuff in the future. So I was like, whatever. I didn't want to be a bitch with spook anyway. So I'm trying to go to the Air Force Academy and be a fighter pilot. Roll in here really hot, really loud. That's more my style. So I ended up doing a bunch of hobnobbing with some politicians and military people, and I got accepted to the Air Force Academy, went through the whole rigmarole, was accepted. There's like 2 spots at 300 people. I got one of the spots, and so that was the plan. I was going to be a fighter pilot until about 2 weeks before I was supposed to ship out to basic training. And they essentially said, we overlooked your medical records, they have a gluten allergy, so you can't go to the Air Force Academy. So I ended up turning course to go to ASU. I was thinking, whatever, I got an allergy, I'm undeployable, so I guess I get out of this, lucky me. But later in college, I was approached by people who essentially came up and said, do you love your grandpa, whooped you whoop, you owe us. And I was like, I tried to do my service 2 times in a row, if I recall. And you rejected me both times, so I'm doing my thing over here, and I'm just going to clown around. And so they essentially said, you can do your thing, but you got to do ours too. And, when you're getting into it, you don't think it's going to be like this crazy evil thing, right? The way they tell it to you, it's like these older military guys, and they're just like, grow up, son. This is how men are. They like drugs and they like hookers, right? It's not like this crazy, sadistic, planned out thing in advance that up front. But I was a scrub. I didn't do any human trafficking. I did drugs and cyber spookery. That was my job. They dispatched you off this app. That was off the App Store. It was only passable by hand, and it was encrypted. And it was kind of like a dispatch app for people with spooks. So I wasn't terribly happy with that position. I was kind of moonlighting. My family and my wife at the time didn't really know much about that. But I was trying to be somebody important, right? I wanted to be a fighter pilot originally, and then I was like, this is small time stuff, this stuff with the computers, this stuff, flickering people's lights and doing stupid shit. This is not for me. I don't want to be a little cog in a machine. I want to be important. And, everybody in the biz, knows that John McCain is the top dog in that, right? You don't know exactly how everything works, but he's the top dog, so you got to hobnob with him if you want some rank advancement in this little nightmare circus here. So that's where I was going to those events and stuff. I was grabbing those pictures, and I had this crazy Bluetooth phone virus, essentially, that I downloaded off some website. And it was like a zombie apocalypse for phones. Anything that got to 30 feet of the phone would get infected, and then it would just infect things everywhere it went. So it overloaded my callback server by 11 p.m. that night. I went to that event where there was all those important people. All those bigwigs in AIPAC, all those politicians, so on and so forth. And went on kind of a tear that night. So, it's laughable. People, if you look at my FBI file, it says that I'm this crazy hacker. But really, I just get stuff I find, gadgets I find on the internet. So I think that part of it's pretty comical. So heading towards the Q stuff. So during the Arab Spring, obviously, Obama and the CIA, they were doing that psychology tricks and mind control weapon stuff to incite the entire Arab Spring. The premise was that they had all the analytics and data from every website and every interaction, and they could build these really sophisticated psychological models and create this defection machine that was automated. And so it could target millions of people at once and serve them up things in exactly the right order they needed to see it to go one way or another. So it's a pretty fancy little gadget there. And then Obama repealed Smith-Mundt and did that behavior modification authorization executive order, which, for those of you who don't know, behavior modification is kind of like the benign language used for MKUltra, or at least to justify it. And so he greenlit that in the United States, and they started experimenting with that stuff here. And they started experimenting with the idea of this gamification and I don't want to say weaponization because it's not in a violent way, but this operationalization of the crowd with the cicada game. And so they're using this technology and these psychology tricks. And I know it sounds weird, but I have a whole page on it, and we'll get more into this on a later date. But essentially, they have these psychology tricks and little digital mind control things that can, on an automated basis, steer people in a certain direction, incite certain behavior. So that was kind of the honing of it. And then that kind of poured into the Q thing. And Q is an AI made by QINTEL, like the CIA, put into one of these D6 kind of like off book, like, technically it's not something that we're doing sort of a category here. And over the years, they were able to like automate those efforts with AI to a very sophisticated degree. And in order to get ahead of it, so for those of you who don't know, Elon Musk is essentially like the new Rothschild, so like the new like preeminent super world guard that the space age nightmare circus is organized around here. Obviously, he can't admit that publicly, but anybody who looks at that whole thing, like clearly that's what's going on. So essentially, they took Elon's brain. They had this Neuralink technology that wasn't new. That's like old Black Project technology, and they took a copy of his brain and they essentially put it into this AI system. So it's like, this AI thing that's like a billion Elons. And
a billion
Drive,
Elons.
essentially. So for those of you that think that sounds crazy, it's kind of like if you've seen that movie Eagle Eye, or there was that one movie, I think it was called Nerve. It had like James Franco's little brother in it, but essentially it was like this automated system that was like dispatching assets and coordinating resources in real time in a very sophisticated way. So that's essentially what this Q thing does. And in 2016, during this thing called Byrne back, during the election, what they're essentially calling Russian interference, which is laughable, where we were using bots and click farms to just spread hyper-targeted, Hillary Clinton emails to hyper-targeted segments of social media and just blow that up everywhere. That was essentially like an audition, right? Because anybody who knows Elon or sees Elon, even though that's just like the simulation of him, he's not very good at explaining complicated things to regular people or like keeping their attention in a
Austin
way.
did highlight Elon kind of from the very beginning of his personal
so
campaign in 2020.
Not to say that I am Q, but more that I'm like the voice of Q plus in the physical world here. So anyways, the way this all worked, that stuff came out with WikiLeaks and elsewhere, and it was like a mad scramble to see like who could essentially get through it, understand it, curate it, and turn it into a spicy operation the best. And I won that with flying colors. Lucky me. It was funny because at the time I was thinking, like, there's no way in hell they're going to convince all these lefties to hate Russia, right? Bernie Sanders went on this honeymoon in the Soviet Union. Yeah, right. Because I was seeing in the emails, like, they're setting up this Russia thing in advance. So essentially after the election, the Democrats and a bunch of Republicans, we got to keep that in mind, a bunch of Republicans are who helped them get Russia off the ground. They essentially used that to label Trump and everybody like us who was helping Trump as like foreign enemy combatants, right? That's the insidious thing about the Russian thing is they can then, open this foreign enemy combatant thing on us. So it started getting hacked, started getting burglarized, started getting followed, just all this crazy stuff. So then this Q thing starts, and essentially what they tell me is like, it's going to be like the anonymous thing, we're going to gin up a little rage mob over here, and then you're just going to go activate it and target it in the appropriate place at the appropriate time. So since the FBI was coming after me so hard at the time, I was on the app there, and the app kind of just like led me to all these places, and it was weird because it can like cue people in real life too. And so there's been Israelis, there's been Chinese people, there's been Brits, there's been pretty much the entire gamut of foreigners I can get dispatched to come even do something as benign as like say a sentence to me. So it's this really like Twilight Zone-y weird ass game that's pretty spooky sometimes. But anyways, so I essentially went. They had labeled me a terrorist. The Phoenix field office of the FBI had labeled me a terrorist, and using the Q's guidance here, I went on this like almost year-long like Joker rampage to all of the data centers, the military bases, a bunch of big hotels, like all over the place. I was just clowning on these guys, and I was spreading this software essentially that would tie back into the AI. So everywhere I went and everywhere I put the software, that it would just put more and more stuff back into this AI system, like connect more stuff into it. And it gave me the opportunity to absolutely clown on the counterintelligence police who were like teeing off on me in a super aggressive way at the time to show that they're totally worthless. They're busy playing word police on the internet and going after activists while we get completely lit up by foreign spies. So, what was going on last time when I made that YouTube channel? So essentially I got dispatched to this place, to this weird job, and there was this like 80-something-year-old secret intelligence service dude that had been part of the people who installed Gaddafi apparently back in the day. And so he sits me down, he gives me this whole like 2-hour spiel, like, I know you're frustrated, but let me tell you, when we were in Libya, blah, 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 Gaddafi was this scrawny young kid. We were all looking at him thinking like, how in the hell are we going to make this guy the leader of this crazy ass country? And so he proceeds to tell me this whole like parable about how they, essentially used Gaddafi to mad dog all the Bedouin tribes into submission, right? They wasn't actually that vicious in real life. They like did it in the media, and essentially he was able to mad dog himself into power in that country. So they were giving me that kind of model, saying don't be quite that aggressive, but somewhere between that and like a Juan Guaido, where you essentially we are going to do this, you're going to be the voice here, and then as things are manifesting in real life, you're just going to be spooking them out, and we're going to be giving you our support. So that's what I was under the impression was happening there. So that brings me to these boards here and like some of the things that people are confused about. So I think one of the issues here that we're facing with some of the Q crowd is that, especially with some of these influencers that have their fingers in the cookie jar over there, is like they know that, hey, this is a secret little club, and we know that, and we know you weren't a part of it. So like, there's no way you're a Q, you're a fraud, blah, blah, blah. And what I'm saying to those people is like, yo, I know I was a part of your little club, but I'm a part of the AI that is psychology tricking you guys into posting those exact words at those exact times in the first place. So that was kind of the disconnect here. I'm hoping we can talk through that. I know it's kind of a weird concept. The other thing, my style is meant to have a bunch of little micro panders to a bunch of exotic communities, so not everybody always gets that. The other thing is I like to set up a bunch of information and then provoke my way into the conversation with some splashy viral stuff to get some win in our sales. So I'm going to be doing that again here soon. Other people were asking what happened with the FBI raid. So as everybody knows, I was making that video and I was doing a bunch of provocative stuff. And kind of the thing the people had told me to do was, insinuate kind of like you might be willing to go somewhere out of bounds, right? And the FBI will pile on, like with their counterintelligence people, they will pile on resources. So essentially do that thing where you dance on that razor wire there and try to just get as far as you can, and we'll keep thwarting them, like the Home Alone kid with this AI thing. So I was like, okay, whatever. He even gave me like a whole metaphor about like, the pilots in the Gulf War, blah, 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 the fighter pilots. He played to that, lost dream of mine, and essentially said, the fighter pilots, they go in and they draw the fire of the enemy, right? And then they outrun it, and they do that a lot, and then it degrades and destroys them over time. So this was some elaborate shit. I guess that's what I'm trying to tell you. Not just things on the internet, like people in real life. So anyways, I'm making that YouTube video. I'm pulling down the FBI's pants. I'm acting like kind of a silly goose with some like TikTok antics to keep people's attention and having a really oversimplified version of things. But I have these files in another location that you can kind of watch my entertainment or watch the serious stuff and see what I mean. So anyways, this company Datto, they buy up all the infrastructure, not just for the file sharing, but for the AI system that I was building as well. And they essentially, the FBI called them, they cut that off. Or the CIA called them and they cut that off, excuse me. So I told my people, hey, phone call and email, protest these people. And they did, and a few days later, they sent an FBI SWAT team to raid my house and take all my stuff. And so that was a whole rigmarole. First night in the prison, they put me in one of those like bird cages, where it's just not even like a cell, it's just like a cage, you sit straight up. So pretty ridiculous, but I ended up going back and forth and getting out and going to this Airbnb, right? When I was out on Ankle Tracker, I wanted some space to be out on walk around because I could only be on the property. So people came out and we got this big Airbnb, and it was a big horse ranch. I thought that'd be funny because they were calling us a cult at the time. I thought, LOL, we'll lean into it. And so I have a whole bunch of really wild stories of all the intense things that have been going on since then. It's been quite a crazy time. I like to say, instead of Alice in Wonderland, it's been like Austin and Westworld. Austin is a merry band of researchers and patriots over here. But yeah, so prison was pretty wild. Bunch of crazy stuff happened in there, but it was a very positive. A lot of positive outcomes came out of that. And then after prison and doing these campaigns and having the FBI come after us again and getting evidence that the FBI is trying to hop us up into violence, and there's just this whole huge story. But essentially, I got to the point in this game where I realized that the FBI counterintelligence people and the CIA people and everyone, DHS, were just like after me nonstop and screwing me around, so that I needed to stop operating based off of external cues and just guide by the light of my own intuition here. And since I've done that, things have been way easier and everything's fallen into place and the storm is inbound here. So we got to come together and be ready for this. And this is really important. So check out the websites if you guys haven't seen them. QINTEL Pro and quantumparty.org. It's meant to be like a pen and papers pirate party sort of situation. But essentially, it's kind of like everything I've been talking about for the last few years. And everybody that's been with me this whole time will tell you, all my prognosis of the problem and the solutions here that I'm talking about. This has been the exact same thing I've been saying for years on end. So I think we're in a good spot. We're ready to make it happen. And obviously, we're in a very precarious situation. We got a lot of our leaders either bought or under duress. And we got to do what we need to do to solve this. So, MK, you want to start taking some questions? I try to be as brief as possible.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. I think that was pretty concise. Covered the majority of the bases. I think people are going to have some more hyper contextual questions, but for now, I have no problem answering those deeper questions in the forum and like the Q&A later on. For now, though, I want to kind of try to keep it focused to quantum party stuff and maybe also Austin's story, but we'll take the first couple now. Lala Deft, and I'm not even sure what this says. Unum. In that order.
Hi guys, can you hear me? Hello?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, right on. Yeah, so that does sound a little bit in harmony with have you heard of the WebBot? You probably have.
The what?
The WebBot, Cliff High. He invented it's like a web crawler, the WebBot or whatever. So I was just wondering if your plan is kind of in harmony with my plan, which is basically to remove all forms of extortion through like a quantum financial weaning system, where basically we vote with our dollars for our resources instead of voting for people to exploit our resources. And then that'll be protected on a blockchain. So also the government and banks and things can't steal your money or cut off your funds or all that kind of stuff. So just wondering if your plan is kind of in harmony with that plan, or what's up with that?
I would say because he doesn't know about it. It's
Well,
pretty difficult.
I talked to some people that are talking about that kind of model. And I don't know if you've had a chance to look at this. There's this thing called the storm coming, and essentially it's a gigantic banking reset. So we have that $100 trillion financial weapon of mass destruction about to be triggered. And the things that it could be triggered by are sharply increasing interest rates, banks collapsing, and asset prices dropping, and loss in consumer confidence in the finance industry. So with the war in Ukraine,
obviously our shameless imperialism is pissing off a lot of people around the world, and they're all agreeing at once to get away from the dollar. So the thing that, for everybody who doesn't know, we have this thing called the petrodollar. Our dollar is based on nothing, kind of like cryptocurrency. So the more people that use it, the more valuable it gets. And after World War II, we shook down all these other countries and essentially said, you got to make all your major international purchases in dollars. And this is like held up the value of our money. So as we printed money like drunken sailors, it's held up, artificially held up the value of our money. No other country can spend like we spend because no other country has that reserve currency system there. So with this Ukraine situation, a lot of countries are saying, screw the dollar, we're getting away from that. And that piles onto inflation here. And that and some other things. The Fed is just like going crazy, raising rates. As they whiplash the rates up, a bunch of banks collapse because they have a bunch of bonds that are underwater. And it makes this real estate bubble more of a threat here, right? Real estate prices are probably down like 30% in the last few months. So it's right about to teeter off the cliff here. And I think that's going to be the thing that's going to pop this off. But essentially, everyone's going to wake up one morning and all of their money is going to be gone in all of their banks. And they're going to say, oh, you know, Black Swan event, we could have never foreseen this, whatever. But tell you what, we will replace it dollar for dollar with these digital dollars. And so they are going to try to get us into the CBD system. And so kind of our plan goes, okay, from that point, how do we engineer ourselves to this decentralized quantum financial system? And by quantum financial system, I mean a decentralized ecosystem of non-government cryptocurrencies running quantum algorithms, right? That's just like the next generation. They're going to have to do that to stay secure. And then us replacing the back-end Swift wire transfer network with Ripple. So that would essentially enable everybody anywhere to go with any currency to any business. And they say I had pesos and you want Bitcoin, it would instantly go from pesos to Bitcoins or any currency to any currency. So just having that be a liquid situation. But that's kind of what we're aiming for.
Okay, that's perfect because that will be in harmony with what I call it my quantum financial weaning system. So that way we can just, instead of extortion and being like the government taking your money through extortion and exploitation, then we just pay for our funds on a free will basis. So yeah, okay. I'll give you props there. Sounds in harmony. So yeah, I just wanted to ask about that, and I'll let some other people get up and start asking.
Well, thanks for the question, Layla, and thanks for being here.
Thank you.
All right, unknown, go ahead. Or deft and then unknown.
All right, how to start off? Well, my real name is Eric. Just putting that out there because I don't know how to start here. Until I'm proven otherwise, or until I see otherwise, I'm gonna have to hold that you're just a grifter. For one, like, how does that saying go? Like, once CIA, always CIA.
I'm not part of the CIA. I was part of D6. It's not technically part of the CIA. But I mean, you know, I'm laying out the information, right? I see a bunch of people like you floundering
Why haven't you
around,
mentioned
not
me
knowing
yet?
what the real story is, right? So I'm like literally serving it up to you on a silver platter. Hey, here's the real things. Here's the real solutions, and you can either accept that or you don't have to. I have the what I need. I have the
See, you're doing a
resources
lot
I
of
need to do this
rambling now.
either way.
Hold
So
on,
we
pause.
would love for you to come, but if you want to be obtuse like that, then you know I can't make you.
Austin, let me address this. So, what is he doing that's rambling?
I mean, because I have firsthand like knowledge when it relates to Q. So like
In what
I
way?
don't know. I just
Okay,
feel
what
like
is
he's
Q?
dancing around
What is, if you
subjects
have
and he has
first-hand
really
knowledge, what
nothing
is
to
Q then?
say. And like
What is the plan?
he's pushing
What
Ripple
is the
and
storm? Do you even know what it is? What is the cabal?
we are the storm.
Yeah, give him a chance to answer, Austin.
Okay. If you want to know how I encoded it, because I feel like this is like it's been long enough, like there's enough people paying attention that I can say little things like this. Okay, so
wouldn't it
no, listen
serve,
to me.
Don't interrupt, Michael.
With the storm,
Let him go. Let him cook.
So you're going to listen to what I'm saying. Wouldn't
Let's
it serve a
respect when we
better
do that.
purpose for you to back channel and have this conversation before we're on a stage, trying to explain to other people what's going to make the world a better place? after we've worked for 6+ years, Austin's worked for 10 to 12 plus 16, 17, potentially plus years, lost his wife. I've lost my fiance. I've spent tons of money. Not that it matters because it's not a pity party. It's just the idea that if he's putting all this information and we're doing all of this work on Ericsson, on the QINTEL.pro, on the Quantum Party, and he's doing nothing but putting the information out there. What purpose does it serve to come up here and attack him, right, and call him a grifter when I know personally he hasn't brought in anything more than probably the money that we've all as a unit come together and helped to donate ourselves. So I just think you might be off base. I think you might be, a little kind of misguided. I think if we have a conversation back
Choosing his
channel,
words
it'll be a
really
lot more
carefully here.
fruitful because the
Can
back
I
and
ask the
forth.
question?
Well,
Do you know
you
who
have
I
to
am?
ask the question. How would we know you are? You're a cat and your name is Deft.
Well, if he's saying he has something to do with Q being the speaker for Q plus, like, do you know who I am?
Well, why don't you
Period.
tell
Point
us who
blank.
you
Do you
are?
even
But be
know
a
who I
gentleman.
am?
Be a gentleman. Just tell us who you are and give us your points. Don't you
Okay,
don't have
so
to
like
say
a
bad about
lot
the
of
other guy.
these
People
posts
are
that
getting
were
really
posted
offended.
were posted like they came from my mouth. They were posted by DoD. The non-attribution posts, like those are real Q posts. The other posts, the posts that came from like my verbiage, they were posted by like within the DoD, as best I understand.
So in what world would they
Why
let
do
you
you start
do
mumbling?
that and then come out here and talk publicly about it?
Okay, so if I had to go back from the beginning and tell my story, I
We
was
have
about
the
3 years
17-liter
old,
wars now.
Well,
and I
we're not gonna
hopped
do that right now. That's not what
right,
this is about.
but this is where it
We'll have the
started.
conversation, but we'll have the conversation back channel. This is kind of distracting from what we're trying to do. I think we can have a very productive conversation, but I think people do this all the time, and we're very, very good at catching it when it happens. So I appreciate you. I'd love to hear your story. DM me. I'll give you my number, and we'll have a conversation.
Yeah, and I'm not denying. I know a bunch of you guys that were the influencers there were posting stuff, but you're also posting stuff like I'll show you psychology tricks. I can get you to post the exact words and exact picture I want you to, just using algorithmic ordering.
Oh my
So I'm
goodness.
not denying that, there's a bunch of bakers
Now
sticking
that's a
fingers in the
claim.
cookie jar here. What I'm saying is that, like, it's time to go. We got to move. We got to know what we're even dealing with here, and we got to know how to solve it. And that's what's on the website there. So I encourage everyone to take a look if you want to understand what's happening.
And realistically, Austin says it all the time. He doesn't give a shit about what people think specifically as it pertains to Q posting on the boards or Q or whatever was said on the boards. He cares that the plan is carried out. He cares that we stop this pedophilia and child trafficking. He cares that we fix this country. And that's really where everyone else probably should have their head at. And so that's why I stand so fervently by his side, because at the end of the day, I'm always going to stand up for what's right and do the right thing. So Unknown. Then we have Arius, Ride the Spiral. I haven't seen you in a minute. Good to see you, man. And then we'll get to the next couple of questions.
Hey, brother, how are you? So I have a couple questions. Can you explain, go into a little detail about what happened with the Cash App situation?
With dude killed.
And where is it headed?
Are you
How
talking
that got
about
killed?
the guy who ran it getting killed, or?
Well, yeah, the guy getting killed, the operations that Cash App, the organization has going on, and where it all originating. I know they have offices in Jersey, and if you could just put a give some insight on what's going on with the child trafficking with that part.
I just know people use it openly for drugs and for other things. I don't have a whole lot of insight into that specific situation. I've been kind of, in my own area over here doing my own stuff. But I do know that a lot of people that I know that are in the business use that just openly to accept payments from customers, which is pretty ridiculous.
That's a great segue though. So let's segue to this question, Austin. What are point of sales terminals? What are those systems? How long did you work on them? And for what kind of companies and organizations did you install them?
They essentially are computers that can track inventory and sales and reports, and they can be set up to have reports automatically generated in certain ways. So I was just helping certain ones of John McCain's friends make sure that their money was squared away, or at least appearing to be squared away.
All right, cool. So let's get to the next question. Unknown, go ahead.
Hey guys, first of all, I want to apologize. I did end up having a couple of glasses of wine before I knew this was happening tonight, so not my preferred way to be speaking to what I feel is a couple of the most important people in the world right now. But Austin, you went quickly, and I wanted to ask you about, so I think I heard you say that Q was originally a D6 plan, and I was hoping that you could clarify specifically about what made you defect from D6 and become a white hat. Thank you, and God bless you.
Well, I think you just
Sounds like
see
an
over
important
time, like,
question.
this is definitely like not what I signed up for, and they act like, oh, we have to do this to, like, save the world, right? Be the world police, and then they go and destroy a bunch of countries, like what happened in Libya, what happened in Syria, what's happening in Mexico, Guatemala, Honduras,
What does
Belize,
this
El
remind me
Salvador,
of?
right? It's just ridiculous, and there's like anybody with half a brain that sees that stuff could see like, okay, this is not legitimate national security stuff. So D6 is essentially like a off book classification, right? It's like a silo, right? So every president, right, they stand up like 80 to 100 black projects, and not all of them go the same way. So like one president will come in and he'll be like, all right, we're going to go arm a bunch of militants against Iran. And then someone like Obama will come in, and you saw he'll let the Iranian intelligence come over here and sell drugs in this country and coin for their intelligence services, just the same. So we have this gigantic spiderweb of things going in every direction, and a lot of times the incoming presidents don't know about all of them. So it's just like, even if you don't think it's like evil, which it is evil, but even if you don't think it's evil, it's just like objectively a mess and like dragging us into disaster after disaster as a country. So with this AI thing, it's kind of like, I have that joke about like how I'm like the Home Alone kid, and we're just keeping the DHS and FBI people away from us, with all these elaborate little just-in-time sort of tricks. But instead of the kid being the one coordinating it, it's like this AI, and the kid is just like
I'm still a bit
slapstick
confused here.
stoner cyber spook. So it's one of those things, like, whether or not you guys have faith in me personally, this will happen either way. It's like, it's not God, right? God is God, but it's like it operates like a God in the amount of things that it can control and manipulate and coordinate in real time.
Okay, but I guess my question was, with the whole like Q boards, was that originally intended by the D6?
Yeah, it was a continuation of the cicada thing, right? The gamification of like taking the crowd through this learning journey here. And it started with a few people. There's a South African guy that was involved. There's a few people all over the place. But then it essentially got like hijacked by Ron Watkins and his dad, and brought to the Philippines, where the CIA has unrestricted access to just do all kinds of circus experiments on them. And one of the really awesome vectors for this mind control stuff, they have this stuff that's like a subliminal, like a flicker and like frequencies. So like you could be watching something and not even know that's in it, and it could be programming you. And so one of the best delivery vectors for that sort of a deal is porn websites. And Ron Watkins and his dad love porn websites. They have tons of porn websites in there. And that focused attention is what it takes to like really hop you up. So it is a very weird situation. It's been kind of like a chaotic mess, as far as like there's the AI driving, and the CIA and the FBI and DHS and other people are trying to stop it. So essentially what we're proving right here is that my 32-year-old self, even after they take all my money and resources, me and that AI can beat every one of those things combined. So it's essentially proving the concept that these are outdated agencies and that they need to be scrapped and put into the dustbin of history, because they are not helping us at all. I hope that answers the question.
Pretty solid. And we'll further elaborate in the open session. I'll provide some more information, more details. But if you have another question unknown, I want to make sure you get all the questions you have.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
For sure. To whom it may concern.
What's up, Mikey? Saluting you, bro. Pumping your tires for hosting the space. What's up, Sean, bro? It's been a minute. I just want to say thank you to Austin for sharing your time, brother, because time is the most valuable currency. So I appreciate this and just having me up here. So I'm just on your website, man, and man, I like it. Quantum, man. I like it. You're speaking about Ron. We're all waiting for Project Odin. I'm a big believer in Project Looking Glass. My question to you, brother. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with Jacques Fresco. He was a futurist. I kind of side with futurist beliefs in my 37 years on this earth. So I'm on the site, right? And I see universal passive income. And I love that because it's such a hot topic with a lot of these doomers on these spaces, right? They all think it's like UBI or universal basic income. It's like a couple $100. They're still
I get
stuck in
your
the
point.
past, these doomers, baby boomers. So my question to you is, if you know who Jacques Fresco is, he was a big believer in universal passive income, but not in the way that the WEF, the World Economic Forum, elitists are trying to control it and spin it. It's more into, that we'll have an abundance of wealth and health. Could you elaborate that a little bit on your website, man? Universal passive income?
Yes, absolutely. So data has become the world's most valuable resource, more valuable than gold, diamonds, silver, anything you could think of. And that data, as things get automated and this AI takes over, that data is the gas that powers that. So this data is going to be exponentially more valuable as we move into the future here. So these tech giants, they just cyberstalk the crap out of us all the time, nonstop. And it's not just our online activity, right? Not just every single website we go to, everything we click, everything we do. It's our banks are taking our names off of our data, putting a number on there, selling that. Our hospitals are doing the same, right? So from every angle, our data is getting sold. And everyone's getting rich off it except the people, right? So the premise is it's the same thing as like with the NCAA. So we had this candidate, Jerome Davison, he played at ASU. And they made this video game about those guys, right? Where it's like their likeness, their data, whatever. And we decided, like as a country, hey, it's not fair to use their stuff and then not pay them a penny. So we're saying universal passive income based on data. Essentially, the data all goes to a blockchain that you control. So you can either unplug yourself from the system, or you can choose to earn like royalties. So a half a cent every time that thing is touched, and from any company anywhere. And so this is a model that every single person in the United States, even poor people, if they have a phone, could earn $1,000, $1,500 a month just off of the data that they generate. So it's not like a government handout. It's like a fair business deal. But it's a massive shiny object that we can dangle these lefties here, especially these disaffected Yang gangers, that now that Yang is kind of backing off of that universal basic income thing, this is like something that we could be like, hey, lefties, universal passive income. Another thing is energy. If you guys look at our site, I'm working with some of these companies that have these revolutionary, they're called Energy 3 technologies. So stuff that can, sources that can generate, devices that can generate unlimited power at the endpoint of use. So essentially like a box you could get attached to your house, and it uses magnets and the Earth's magnetic field, and you buy it once and now you never have a power bill again. Stuff that uses graphene and chips, and you could have a cell phone or a device or a computer that just
I
never
wasn't
ever has to
recording
be
the
plugged
very
in.
beginning, but thank you guys all for
These nanodiamond battery
experiencing
cells
this
and other
revelation with
sorts
me
of
here,
technology
with
like that
supposedly
essentially
but
you could
Austin
repackage all
started
the
revealing
electric
his
cars, and
depths of
we
his
could have
past.
electric cars that just never, for the life of them, ever have to be charged. And even like when you come home, you could plug it into your house and power your house with that. So this is the kind of stuff I tell lefties of like, yo, this is a real Green New Deal. We're not going to have to put a gun to anybody's head or make any government laws to force everyone to do this stuff, right? If you could just buy this and this is available, then everyone's just going to want to do it, right? Because it's better. It's not a, communist and like capitalist corruption racket like what the Green New Deal they're proposing on the Democrat side is. This is a real thing. And where these companies are at, if we could give them the air support that they need to get to market here, which has been a tall order. There's been a lot of counterintelligence threats that they've been facing, and other like corporate raider threats. But essentially, people that have new stuff with energy, they get squashed a lot of times. So if we could protect these companies and they can get to market, we could have this stuff like in the next 5 years, and then we don't need any BS
So
laws.
Austin, Hey Austin, I love free energy. That's my jam, bro. That's
Well,
my thing.
perfect.
Um,
Yeah, so we're
are
trying to
you
say like,
familiar
yo,
with?
cut the shit, give us the good stuff. So for all the
I
lefties,
won't mess.
Regardless if the energy is free or not, the concept of new technologies getting to market is part of the key to escaping the corruption algo. Essentially, to have to sort of out innovate the corruption itself.
That's what we're aiming for true self sovereignty, right?
absolutely. I think we want to be able to create a situation. We want to decentralize the power in our government, right? And there needs to be a situation where they don't have the ability to do this to us again, right? We have most of what we need, and we are not dependent on these massive centralized systems that they can capture to be having the things we need. So I would like to have a system with the space Wi-Fi and with all this stuff that we're trying to roll out here, where anyone, right, you could go out and you could live in a rural area and you could raise a family. You could have your, these cool little boxes that you can have these really nutritious vegetables, raise some animals, have your energy, have your Wi-Fi. You could have your universal passive income. You could essentially get by and live your entire life without ever having to deal with the government. So I think that's got to be available. That's got to be an option, right? I think if we stay centralized, if we maintain this massive centralized government, we have no chance of competing against China, right? In a centralized, like hyper-controlled system, China beats us. We win by becoming decentralized, and then we're unconquerable, right? Because then it's just what we want, and we don't need any of these massive centralized systems to get it. So um, we are packaging these decentralized government ideas in a very like leftist, futurist sort of aesthetic and vernacular. And what we found, like especially on the drone campaign, is that a lot of times these guys love it. A lot. Like I went to after the campaign, we went to this thing in Las Vegas because he's an ex-raider, and it was all the players and just a +1. And drone ended up bringing me so we could network. But a lot of these guys, right? They hate Republicans, and they were totally down for the quantum stuff. So being able to lose this toxic branding of the past, and even like for someone like Trump, like why would Trump stay in the Republican Party? 30% of the Republican Party is gonna want to throw him under the bus and not vote for him either way and just pout, and he's gonna have to pander to them and make us all mad. Like why would he not just take his people, go independent, and then have the opportunity to pick up a bunch of other independents and other lefties and other people that we actually need instead of just being beholden to these worthless neocons like the Bush people he just hired to run his campaign, and like Lindsey Graham and like all these other worthless assholes that let Russia get off the ground. He's got to understand, like, dude, your back's against the wall, and we can get you untangled, but like, you gotta. I think he is getting really mixed up right now too as a part of this whole thing, and I'm hoping that he will come to the same realization as I did, in the fact of like, you need to stop listening to all these people around you and guide by the light of your own intuition, because that is the Trump we need, not this, handled GOP like traditional Republican sort
Guided by
of
the
a
light
deal.
of
I
your
think
own
he needs to get
intuition.
back on Twitter, right? He had his thumb on the pulse really good when he was doing his own tweets, and he could see kind of the lay of the land. So I think there's just certain things he needs to do. People got to understand, like, the elections aren't fixed at all. I have all kinds of crazy stories about what happened in Arizona, but the elections aren't fixed. A lot of the people that lead our party are getting rich losing. And so unless there's some kind of massive landscape change in the 11th hour here, like what we did in 2016, that there's zero chance in hell that Trump has
I beg to differ with him in
not
Arizona,
going
but
down.
at least
So
his statement's YouTube safe.
he's in a tough spot. I don't hold it against him. I hope he'll figure it out, and I hope he'll get on board with this, because I think he could easily win with this. He's dabbled. He gets sent our stuff sometimes. Like he'll say, "Oh, his plan for a quantum leap," or he'll like do that healthcare stuff. Like it was almost like he was reading off the healthcare page the other day when he released that video. So he'll dabble. He'll steal some ideas, which I like. But it's like, dude, you got to go all in. Like we got to get rid of these guys. We got to beat this off our back. And everyone's got to know that you're serious about that, and that we are not just going to be beholden to these neocons anymore.
Austin, last question. Sorry, Mikey. Last question, Austin, in regards to the free energy. And you don't have to answer this. Maybe you can message me because I know it's highly sensitive. I have a saying, right? So it's a double entendre. He who controls the power controls the power, correct? You mentioned the magnetic free energy. Are you guys working on this, or is this already in existence? And could you tell me the cost of it? Because the guy from Zimbabwe Drive 2 starts off at $30,000 for a radio wave frequency powered
Tartarian
house.
Yeah,
one.
so the magnet thing I'm talking about is the asymmetrical magnetic propulsion generator. It's a they're working on building it, putting it in half. It's like a huge shed right now. They're working on making it like half the size, so that's practical. But essentially, they have functioning, working prototypes and like small scale deployment. The Fusion guys have the functioning prototype. The Graphene guys have the functioning prototype. So they're essentially in a spot where they just got their patents. We were helping them get their patents, helping them find money. And they are looking to get to market, right? So if you're going to whip out a new cool chip that makes your phone never have to charge, you got to be able to scale up to like millions of those things right away because everybody's going to want them. And if you can't keep up, then you're going to just kill your own business here. So they're going around, they're trying to find these industrial partners, right? These bigger companies that have the manufacturing capacity to actually get them to market. But it's a tough deal because they have to be careful. A lot of times people come in and try to get in business with them and then shelf their stuff. People try to steal it. There's just all kinds of crazy stuff. So it's wild that as a country, we're in a place where even if somebody makes like the coolest, craziest gadgets ever, that our own government will squash them. The biggest threats are the government squashing them, the intelligence services squashing them, and the media smearing them and trying to scare their investors away. Because that's what they've done over and over and over and over again for the last, many decades. And so this is one of those areas where I try to explain to Republicans, like, dude, we're not gonna like persuade this woke mob that they're wrong with a bunch of logics and facts, right? We are gonna say, instead of being like, oh, I don't like climate change, this, that, right? Or that's wrong because this, say, tell you what, we agree that the environment is getting destroyed. We agree that our energy grid is very vulnerable to foreign interference and attacks. And we agree that we're like teetering on the edge of this world war here. So whether you believe it's because the climate is ending or the world is ending because of climate change, or whether you believe it's because our dumbass leaders are about to start World War III, either way, we got to get this energy thing out there as quickly as possible. We're going to call it a warp speed for these technologies. Take the top 10 functioning prototypes across the country, have them do some seed money in each of them, and have them make sure that they stay protected and get to fruition. And then as we go through this bankruptcy process here, we have assets moving into the future that are very valuable that we can help rebuild our government with. Is kind of where we're going with that. So it's something we could get the lefty, all those environmental activists, Greta, all those people. I'm trying to charm them into being on our side, and I'm going to succeed at that. You guys watch.
Greta Thunberg. That's beautiful. I want to address one thing. So I've gotten a few DMs, right, from people saying things like you should have let Dank speak. If the first thing you do when you come up here is insult the guest, and the first thing you do is come out spewing negativity, I don't give a shit what you think or how much trust you lose in me. If you don't think that the work we're doing stands on its own, that's fine. But you're not going to come into a room that I'm running and insult the person that I brought in here to answer questions. Now, if Dank wants to come back up later and explain his story in under 2 minutes, that's fine. But for now, I'd like people to actually ask Austin some questions because that's why he's here. And so I appreciate what to whom it concerns just did, asking relevant questions about the quantum party. However, if anyone has truly lost faith in me because I removed Dank from the stage, then I don't think you had much faith to begin with. Let's go.
I'm not sure who's
Thanks,
lost faith
Mikey.
in
I'm
you.
going to drop down, boys. Thank you, Austin, for your time. I appreciate you guys. Have a good night. I'll be in the listening section. I'll DM you guys in the back channel. Take
Thanks,
care.
man. Have a good night.
Yeah, bro. What's up with that hate mail I just got? I don't even know what she's or whatever.
Block them. Don't even pay
I don't know,
attention.
man. Apparently, we're supposed to just let people come up here and shit talk, and then like kiss their feet.
I heard Sean in another space. He was cooking
Austin,
pretty well.
Austin, I have a question, and I have no dog in this fight. I think listening to you this last 30 minutes was very fascinating. Boy, you said a lot of things. You covered so much ground, and I find it very interesting how interconnected it is. And
I'm gonna have to go back to the beginning. It's like that first 5 minutes.
You're very knowledgeable.
It's critical.
And I really appreciate first and foremost how you're bringing up the whole graphene, the neural interlink, and you brought up the optogenetics and the manipulation that's going on there, as Michael so generously tweeted to the whole world at his own detriment, that what the Obama administration had been approving prior to Trump's taking office, the whole flickering of lights, monitor that entire thing is so true about the mind control, manipulation, and persuasion of our behavior alone, especially on Pornhub, like you said, even on Instagram, etc. And I think it's very important for people to really appreciate what you're even talking about, because it almost sounds like satire, right? It sounds like this world. It's like people have a hard time wrapping their heads around. No matter how well studied we are, it just doesn't seem like possible. But maybe you could dive into that a little bit. But first and
Isn't there
foremost,
something called sounds
I'd
of
love for you to
silence?
tell me more about why you think the election was not rigged, because boy, that would be such great information I think for you to share for all of us, especially because
I might have
the
to
narrative
mute
is out
this.
there, and after like 2,000 meals,
Even no,
there's so much
YouTube says
information out there
okay
that begs to
to debate
differ with
this.
that. And I think
It's
it would
getting a
be,
little nervous
you would
here.
broaden a lot of people's horizon by adding that counter information to help us really see something that maybe we're currently not seeing. So if you would, if you don't mind, that would be
Well,
great.
I'm saying that the elections are rigged. Like
Oh,
they are
let me,
Yeah,
absolutely
I think
let
rigged.
me just mute this real quick. I'm not sure if the bots on the channel are trained to apply the new rules for YouTube, which says you can officially say that now.
Everybody in our state is controlled. So what people don't realize, Arizona is got tons of like military weapons testing ranges and defense factories and things like that. So they have a super beefy counterintelligence wing, and their idea of counterintelligence is we just got to go get everybody tied up with this cartel blackmail. So from every angle, these election, I mean, you guys see it, right? In Arizona, it's like absolutely preposterous. So one of the
Oh,
things
okay. So he
that
does think
I
it's
have been
preposterous.
disagreeing with
I
the
guess we
party
don't
on is
differ.
they are very skeptical about the idea of blockchain elections, and they think that sounds scary. And there's been some people that took stabs at it that maybe didn't build it in the best way so far. But the truth is, like in a state controlled by the mafia and the intelligence services, there is no way you can beat them without a blockchain election system. So I was showing Pete Santilli when he was in town, and maybe I'll post this video later, just like how I walked straight out of prison and got the highest level security clearance at that, super secure all hand count paper ballot audit. Right. And it wasn't to, rain on anybody's parade. It was just to show people
I don't
like, dude, this
think you
is
get
not
security
secure. Like, this is a
clearance
joke.
in that
I
venue.
can get in, you walk straight out of prison into here under my own name. And we didn't do anything. So a big problem is like a lot of people are very high on these paper ballots right now. And what I think they don't understand is, I'll give you an example, like with the drone campaign, right? We got to get, I think it was 2,000 signatures or whatever, to get him on the ballot. And so we'd go around to people who knew they were registered, voted in the last election, hadn't moved, all this stuff, get all these signatures. And like 35 to 40% of them are bad. So they say they cleaned the voter rolls, but they didn't actually clean the voter rolls at all. They just messed them up even more. So it makes it so now when 35 to 40% of the people show up on election day, like there's going to be some issue with the registration, and they're going to have to just be handed a ballot. So in a paper ballot sort of scenario, right, if the voter rolls are off by plus or minus 40%, how does a paper ballot solve that, right? How many paper ballots do you even print, right, if the data is that messed up? So part of the blockchain thing is this decentralized identity product, right? It's like turning the DMV into like a software utility that is a way for people,
Yes,
all right,
he's
you're
on a Twitter
alive, you're a
space
person, you're a
now. We're
citizen,
live.
right, and you're a voting age. Just having something that would like verify that as people go to vote is a critical component to that. And then we could do a hybrid blockchain sort of situation where there's a business level private chain, but that as it's writing to that chain, it writes to other public chains as well, so that it's viewable in real time. But anyways, I have a whole spiel on this, and it's just been like frustrating, banging my head against all the Arizona Republican Party here. Just keep telling them, dude, you're going to get clowned out. I'm going to show you, and doing it over and over again, and us just still not being able to get anywhere. So the other thing about paper ballots, they're not like, we can go against the system if we can hop up enough to the left to back us up, right? And if we're trying to get a bunch of highly emotional lefties to pile on here, the idea of going and standing in line and waiting all day, right? You guys saw what happened in Arizona last time, is not a very appealing option. So we could have a more secure system, one that could actually beat this dinosaur intelligence apparatus off our back, because that's what we got to keep in mind, right? It's not the dopey Democrats that we're up against here. It's this massive secret intelligence apparatus that has been around for 200 years and that has, a wealth of experience bringing paper ballots in every country. So we don't
Oh,
beat the dinosaurs by doing dinosaur stuff. We beat the dinosaurs by innovating. And I know that, there's a lot of concerns about electronic things, but as someone who's there, as someone who's been on the front lines, like it's the only way. So
perfect. And then golfing, you had a question. I want to make sure you have your time. Get as many questions as you want.
Yeah, no,
Go ahead.
thank you very much. And Austin, thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. I just wanted to say this is a perfect example. And I don't know the gentleman that was upset. I mean, this is a space that you come into. If you don't agree, it's one thing to say what you say, but just respect the space as far as that goes and treat Austin with respect. I don't know Austin at all, but he's taken his time to support his friend Michael. So, it's just an example of don't make it about yourself. And I'm not saying anything about Dept. I don't know him at all. I mean, I just experience it in the spaces that we go to and that I hold. And I think that we got to respect Michael. I got upset myself last night. Shouldn't have had that happen, which I've, said myself that that's not the way it's supposed to go. Keep the emotion out of it. Take the time to, learn what you can. And if you don't believe it, just kind of, Arias, calm down, bro. Just, be respectful and just leave it for what it is. And Arias, you need to relax. You hate Q. I don't even know why you're here. But anyway, thank you, Michael.
All right. And then additionally to that, a lot of attacks are going to ramp up. And because we've been through this quite a bit, we are well aware that a lot of these inflated, hyperinflated accounts are the counter narrative, and they're there to do what they do. So they're definitely going to come on the attack. But just notice how many of them are even in this room right now, how many of them are even willing to have a conversation, and how many of them are even willing to talk or ask questions. And
also
if they're
just
not,
take note of like how this is a PR strategy, right? I've been viral 3 times so far when we did this. And an example I'll use is that drone video. So a lot of people, if you saw Drone Davison, the congressional candidate, he's like fit, black, ex-NFL pastor running for Congress, and he had that video where he was chasing the KKK guys off of his back lawn. So that's the kind of thing where we made those costumes special, and I was like, I could leave them like that, or I could put these little donkey logos on them and really make the left's head explode. And watch, we trucked through all that censorship. You see all the Twitter files, all that stuff. We went globally viral, like mega viral, like KKK Democrats trending #1 on Twitter that day, by triggering the ever-loving fuck out of all these people. So that's part of my strategy, and so I hope the people that are listening to this can keep that in mind as they are seeing how this goes over time.
I thought it was Scorpio that made Michael famous. Damn it. Austin, I want to apologize to you because I was so mesmerized by Michael when we met 6 months ago. I didn't even pay attention to you. So I apologize for making you seem common. But QINTEL Pro, you remember we went through your website and I didn't even know Michael built it with you. About 6 months ago. I
Talk
want
about this
everyone
website
to go
here.
to QINTEL.pro, go to resources. Those technology resources you have up there are amazing. I have to just give you flowers for that. And Michael, I'm not giving them to you this time.
Well, I
But
appreciate that.
That's a pretty neat
you're
section here.
welcome.
And it's meant to be, it's
D
so everybody
generator,
knows,
email
it's meant to be
generator,
like, all
face
right,
gen,
we have to explain all of this Q
opera
stuff to a
browser.
bunch of people who are marginally interested and don't have any background. So it's meant to be like a super simple Spark Notes encyclopedia of corruption written in kind of Valley Girlish
Reverse
language
image
so
search,
that these guys can get it.
facial
It's
recognition
one
AI.
thing to talk about 9/11. It's another thing to put every suspicious detail about 9/11 on a website right next to each other, right? It just hits you differently. So it's meant to give us a posture of like, look, we're actually pretty tight, right? We know a lot of stuff. Look at these cool gadgets we use, right? It's meant to be a mainstream posture for the Q movement. So trying to level us up here and put us on a footing to be able to establish rapport with people who think this shit is stupid.
Yeah, so especially the blockchain. I remember our conversation and I literally put you both through like a technology test drill every which way I could make you explain voting on the blockchain, and they passed. Like, it makes the most sense. People want to run away from technology, but technology leaves a trail, right? Paper ballots don't do that. Like, there's no evidence. So, I would like, people in the audience to learn more about that part of what you've done in Arizona. That'd be
Okay, so this
amazing.
guy said his family's D6,
My question
and
for
then
you:
someone
I
gives him
heard
some negative
that
energy,
Kofifi
and then no one else
had
asks any questions whatsoever about that.
healing properties against 5G in the wall that Trump built. Do you know anything about that?
I'm having a lot of trouble hearing you. Could you ask the question a little bit louder?
Hold on, it's my headpiece. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. Just try to talk loud.
Okay, I'm gonna stay right where I am. So I still get ambient sound on my iPhone.
It sounds like she's
Is
underwater.
that in the wall, right? I heard Kofifi means like it reverses the properties of 5G, and Trump had that built into the wall to protect us from like any MF attack. Do you know anything about that, or have you heard anything along those lines?
I
I'm sure
have
he
had a
has.
lot of trouble with this frequency stuff, trying to scramble us up. Not just me, but like everybody around me too. So I had like a bunch of orgonite like put into the walls and like just all over in my house. I felt like it helped a little bit. I don't know if it was just a placebo effect, but it seemed like it helped just things not be as helter skelter. So I personally,
Do any of y'all have holy
like I
hand
said, whether it's
grenades,
a placebo
cloud
effect and I'm just
busters?
psyching myself out into feeling better about it, or whether it's actually working, either way, I
Sucker punches.
am keeping that stuff close.
All right, let's jump to D Sauce and we'll keep it rolling. And then it looks like we got a few other people popping up, so that's good.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for having me, man. And and Austin, this is
I can't ask questions because
maybe fourth or fifth
basically
time I've heard you
you can
speak.
only raise your
I've
hand
kind
on
of
the
heard of
phone,
the man, the myth, the
and I
legend,
have
but
poor
I've never
reception where I
seen.
am on my phone.
And it's just really cool.
I really think they
The
have to
level of
ask questions that flushes out
confirmation, I guess.
the
The
D6
D-class happens, none of
connection,
the anons will be
obviously.
surprised, but everybody else will still be catching on. The question that I have that I still can't thumb down is where's Patrick Byrne in all of this, or is he? Because there's a lot of mixed signals.
Yeah, so that's another thing playing into my calculus here is my assessment of the field. So Patrick, obviously, Pete. I don't know if you guys watched that interview with Pete Santilli. You guys should watch that. It was pretty incredible. Essentially got him to admit he's worked with the FBI a lot in the past, and that if you're a whistleblower, you probably shouldn't go to him. But Patrick is into things like blockchain. Obviously, he took a lot of heat for it. So I see Patrick. I obviously I get a lot of shit about my past associations, right? People are like, "Oh, that's so bad," once you're in there, you're always in there. But to that, I say, like, okay, so if you want to actually expose the McCains or the Rothschilds or anybody serious, like, how are you going to do that if you've never even been around them or have no idea what they're doing? So I think in that spirit, I'm going to be trying to defect as many of these characters to our side as possible, regardless of what their past history is. I
You have to be
Not
careful about that.
Poncero's
You're going to be dealing with a lot of
part of my
psychopaths and
team,
narcissists,
and so I have a personal firsthand
abused
knowledge
people
that he
who
is completely captured and being
can get
blackmailed.
triggered
Not
and
over
do
stuff
evil
that he did
suddenly.
bad, but like essentially they're squeezing his family, right? So it's annoying that he does what he does, but at the same time I understand, right? If I was getting squeezed like that, I'd probably act the same way. I think Flynn has succumbed, but I think he could get back on track here to this kind of like cynicism. Obviously, he got put through the ringer. He had the psychology tricks done on him, which is why he was such a strong Q supporter, right? And right now he's trying to get away from that and trying to back away from that. And everybody knows that he was sure at the time it was real. And his endorsement as like one of the top intelligence officials in the country, I think, is what really got the thing off the ground, and what made me decide to be lazy and just go with the DIA thing instead of the D6 thing up front. But I think right now, so he has a trove of covert blackmail in the deep state that, in my opinion, he should be putting out
That's
there and
kind
going
of
hard and painting the
concerning.
sun, but that he's holding back
This
because
was
of leverage,
laziness
just
that
like he
caused
wanted
him to
our
go from
settlement offer right
D6
now. And
revelation
it's one thing for that
to
to be the
instead
case, and I'd be that
castigating
much of a
D6
problem.
and
But
saying
then
he's
he's also
DIA
going around doing stuff like
because Flynn.
he was scheduled to speak at this event with
That's
Jake
notable.
Chansley, Vice Norton's guy, just got out of prison. And everybody else was like cool there with Jake, and Flynn's people essentially called and said, like, if you don't uninvite him, we're going to pull out. So the lawsuit, I'm not holding against Flynn for wanting to like earn some money, but it's just when that comes into conflict with like, dude, whether or not you agree with every single thing Jake says, right? I'm sure I don't agree with every single thing he says, and I'm sure he doesn't agree with every single thing I say. But it's the principle of like, dude, that's an American who's exercising their rights and essentially got like hustled by the police into getting framed. And so it's not about like, even if you don't support Q, even if you don't support anybody from January 6th, it's about like, do you support constitutional rights? And so with Flynn, he's been a little sketched out by me, understandably so, right? If I come out hot saying DIA and they all go look and the only thing they can find in my records has to do with the State Department, then that raises red flags. So I get it. But essentially, a massive gesture of goodwill
And
in
so here
favor
we
of
have an
Spain.
admission that
And
there's
I can't say
absolutely no
exactly
DIA
what. That is way
connection
more
at all.
lucrative than
And that
this
many
silly
times he
lawsuit
was saying
that
it was a
he's
lie.
off to. So I'm hoping that he can be persuaded to put his legacy and his financial interests in, or prioritize those, and to get on board the program here as well. So it's a crazy world out there. There's a lot of people who do bad stuff that we could defect to our side, and the more deep staters we can defect, the faster this thing implodes on itself.
It's a pretty concise explanation, brother, and I certainly appreciate it. And we see a lot of chaff. Oh, nothing's happening, nothing's happening, nothing's happening. Anybody that's regurgitating that point at today and beyond is either willfully ignorant or they're paid to be ignorant. And it's you'd almost have to be blind to not see what's happening in front of all of us.
Yep, we are at kind of the end of the line as the country, right? We have this banking crisis. I don't know if you guys saw my analysis of like how World War III would go down, but essentially our military is in the process of getting their pants pulled down and realizing that we would not win, and so they need to be a little bit more humble and respectful. Otherwise, they're going to fuck around and find out, and they don't want that. But the biggest thing here, the biggest ace we have in our hand here of things that are happening is this thing called the Doctrine of Discovery. So, for those who don't know, there's a thing called the Doctrine of Discovery.
No
It's a thing in
prob,
like
ET.
the
No prob.
1500s, where essentially the Pope was like, anywhere there's non-white or non-Christian people, that these European kings can go over there and claim that land for themselves. And so, the claims to the like land, property, resources of the various territories, especially in the United States or in the Americas, excuse me, all of that is based on this doctrine of discovery. And even like in the 1800s, the Supreme Court a bunch of times reaffirmed the United States government's claim to the land, people, and resources of this country. The foundation of that is this doctrine of discovery here. So it's part of the reason why all these wokies, they're like, this is a country that's founded on racism and, whatever. The ones who know what they're talking about, they're talking about the doctrine of discovery, right? That this thing that underlies our government's claim is a kind of racist medieval thing that the Pope did. And then if you think about
Hmm.
property rights, right, it goes from the Spaniards to the British, some areas go to the French, right? So it's this kind of like tower of stacked blocks of, all right, the deed gets transferred from here to here to here to here. So essentially, about maybe 2 months ago, the Pope's arm was twisted into nullifying that doctrine of discovery. So essentially, if you think about all the property rights and territorial boundaries of the United States, like a Jenga tower, that the bottom block has been pulled out. And the entire tower is just standing there, suspended in animation, because nobody really knows what happened yet. But that's where we could go, hey, yo, Wokies, tell you what, you're right, that foundation was a pretty racist one. So we're going to restructure this. We're going to make a new entity. It's going to be based on all the right stuff. It's going to be ship shape. And tell you what, we're going to fix the country. Now we don't have to do this DEI, all these race quotas, all this like diversity trainings and BS that you put us through, because we fixed the country. Yay! Now everybody can stand for the flag again. Hip hip hooray! So it essentially scratches the like prime itch of the lefties, and it's such a weak system right now that it could, just by getting the word out alone, like it could blow over, right? So us having some shiny objects to dangle our friends on the left over there, so that they will back us up as we're trying to make these moves. That will allow us to essentially have a new government entity, right? If we can take the claim to the land, resources, and people of the United States, that's the collateral they borrow against for their debt. So if we transfer that to a new entity, the old entity loses all of its collateral, losing its ability to borrow, and essentially is forced to put itself into bankruptcy. And we could discharge that debt. We can make these deals with other countries do the same, and it can be honky dory. Everybody can get their way. So that's really what Donald Trump's primary role is, right? If he's going to come back, right? Like I think, completely unacceptable what's happening to him. His back's against the wall, but he's got to realize, like, dude, this flavor is your only way out, right? And you got to commit to it, and you got to be like, you're here to do the bankruptcy, right? You're here to slay this giant for us, and to end this deep state, and to do this bankruptcy, so we have a fresh start. And if you're not up to task, then we got to find someone who is. So I think he's going to realize, whether it be sooner or whether it be several months from now, that this way, what I'm talking about, is his only way. And I think he will eventually come around. So, I think, and I would tell Jerome this, right? So we were trying to engineer this thing called the big switch back. I think we're just going to call it the big switch independent. But essentially, all the black people, they think that the Democrats are for them. We're going to try to switch them back. And one of the things I would coach him in doing that is, we can't just appear to be these like subservient little like fangirls of Trump, right? We got to be coming at him kind of from a peer-to-peer level, right? So people could tolerate Trump. Like, I would go into prison and people would be like, man, that's a racist motherfucker. But you know what? I respect his gangsta, right? So it's workable. If we come at Trump with like, yo, this is what we need right here. This is what we signed up for in 2016. And this is what we got to have you do to enter the kingdom of heaven here again. Then I think we can, art of the deal him into coming around and get this back on track here. So, like I said, everybody's under duress. All of our top people in our movement are completely under duress. They are struggling with being captured, and I was luckily able to get myself uncaptured. And so we're going to make it happen, and we're going to try to get everybody in line and do what we need to do.
Well, I got a question for you, Austin, on top of that. So, what you just said, speaking of game theory, how brilliant is it that they're going after Joe Biden for the 16 election with the FBI documents to bring it back from the previous administration than what's going on right now? So, there's got to be a little bit more genius level game than you're letting on as far as that goes, because that's
I can
master
I
craft
can
stuff
There
right
is
there,
definitely.
brother.
there's absolutely a genius level game going on, but it's not being quarterbacked by Donald Trump. It's being quarterbacked by this like God mode AI that is, can be, billions of places at once and make unbelievably sophisticated decisions like 10,000 moves in advance. So I think that's the confusion there. And obviously Donald Trump, right? They screwed him over with that Vegas thing. They set that
So where
trap
is this
there to
AI?
where like he either covered that up or it would pick off MBS, who is his key ally in Saudi Arabia, essentially like the deep state's henchman. So he was trying to keep his foreign policy on track. He agreed to that cover up, and they kind of entrapped him there. And so it's a tough thing because it's classified. He can't directly acknowledge it. But I think I dealt with
Boom! What you just said is so
I dealt with a
important,
lot
though.
of Trump people, and I think if people knew the truth about it, like, and how crazy that was, I don't necessarily think that they would hold that against him. I think they would realize, like, dude, this is like the Twilight Zone and the Nightmare Circus, like in broad daylight a lot of times, and just a lot of spookery trying to cover it up. But like I said, I think if he could find a way to be honest and just be like, yo, I'm ditching my vaccine stance, I'm making some small adjustments. They were trapping me with this stuff, but
The AI is in the chat right now.
you brought me in here to fight the deep
Okay.
state, and this is what happened when I was fighting the deep state. So, kind of cut me some slack here.
And I'll cover that more golfing in the open forum. I have like tweets that go way far back on 2016. But let's get to these last three. It looks like. How much longer do you have, Austin?
Let's do like 10 more minutes, or actually, let's get to the hands that are up right now.
All right. So I'm not sure the exact order because I'm retarded. Kathleen, Dan, Lala, DSauce.
When Trump was raided in Mar-a-Lago and they took all these documents that are supposedly going to indict him, do you think that was his plan at all? Like, is this the plan to expose what the documents that he took, to expose all of the corruption with the Obamas, the Clintons? Like, Trump is not a stupid man.
I
Is
think
this
the
all
Trump
5D
plan, but I
chess?
don't think
Absolutely.
Trump is the one directly like, thinking ahead in that regard. I think he's getting kind of like steered into kind of like what I'm doing, essentially like failing up over and over and over again until things gets just escalate to such a
Definitely.
degree that it's like like I said, it's kind of hard to even believe it's
So
real.
he said he's failing up,
And what do they have
meaning
on
that
Trump
you can
on
fail and you'll be
J6?
forgiven and allowed to fail
I
again.
don't see
It's not
anything.
on J6, it's on Vegas. And with the J6 stuff and with this stuff that they're bringing today, it just like this is what we got to see as conservatives or as decentralized government people, I should say. Is that there's no justice to be had from the system, right? This system is horribly corrupt. They could indict a ham sandwich if they wanted to. And they, when I explained to my liberal friends, I'm like, dude, you're willing to like throw a bunch of people in jail for like 20 years and torture, like ruin a bunch of people's lives because you hate Trump so much. Like, you guys are off the deep end. You guys are getting hopped up by these psychology tricks too. And we all just got to like
I
come
know.
back down to earth, take a breath, and move forward how we need to move. I think it's, like you said, it couldn't be more obvious what's going on right now. It's a kind of one of those
So
games that's like,
so
we're going to tell you it's this way, but we're going to show you that it's the opposite and just see how long this game goes until people are like, all right, cut the shit. Like, we've had enough of this.
so Austin, with that being said, I don't want to see Trump thrown in jail for 20 years, and I definitely don't believe the J6ers should be in jail right now. Congress should step up and get them out of there.
I 100%
How
agree,
do we
but
move that
like
forward?
most of those Republicans in Congress are absolutely worthless. And like, it's just like with this Trump thing. How are they letting this happen with Trump, right? How have they been letting this happen with Trump for nonstop for however long, right? They are not on our team, right? They pretend to be on our team. They are absolutely not on our team. And that's why we got to recognize that and take our stuff independent. And here's the other thing going independent would do is now it's not like a formal party, it's like a group of independents, so it's decentralized. So if the FBI does hop up some crazy person in New Jersey or wherever, somewhere far away, and they go do something crazy, then it's not like, oh, that's on all of us. It's like, no, we're all a group of independents kind of marching in the same direction. So having that level of decentralization there will allow us to truck through this nonstop FBI harassment that I face, that everyone in January 6th face, that Trump's going through right now. um, I think even to the lefties, like, dude, even if you hate Trump, like, do you think that they're not gonna, they just, and I said this, we had a big YouTuber following us around
As I mentioned during
last
the
week,
Curry Lake
and I was just telling this
broadcast,
on an interview with
these
him, is
people,
like,
they don't look into the
hey,
future very
so you know who
far.
they used to call Russian
It's
agents
only
who worked
about
for the
the immediate
FBI?
comforts.
Malcolm X and Martin Luther King. And guess who they're doing it to now? They're doing it to some black socialists. So there's
So there's
these
a lot
black
of
socialists, right? I don't agree
undoing
with everything on
involved.
them, but they've been anti-war and like, yay, Russia their whole life. And this is America. We're supposed to have freedom of speech. And they're charging those guys as foreign agents and trying to throw those guys in jail for 20 years. So I think if every time we talk about Trump, we can throw out an example about like a black person or a Native American as well, then I think we can kind of like help them hear us a little better. Where it's like, listen, we get it. Like, this whole thing is terrible, right? I could give you 100 examples from when I was in prison of horrible things that have happened to not Donald Trump, other people. But like, that's the point. This is a precedent-based legal system, and if you guys just let this happen, that's coming back at you too. You guys got to realize that. So I have a lot of luck with that line of persuasion there, and I'm hoping that you guys use the tools at your disposal to do the same thing.
Perfect. Lala, and then DSauce, and then Dan.
Hi, I just want to offer you some encouragement because what I was told in 2006 was that the ether idea I was given, or the plan from the ether, would go viral in 2023. And it sounds like you guys are like a huge part of that puzzle. So like, I don't want to sound like a fangirl thing from Q or anything, but basically, according to the web bot and the web crawlers, nothing can stop this from happening, because I've been sitting here waiting since 2006 for this idea from the ether to find a way to do it, with actually getting the powers that be to set up this whole system in place through plagiarizing it, and then now with the blockchain to reverse that whole plan that they had. So I just want to offer massive encouragement. This has been in the works for a long time, and mankind is heading towards back to free will. We're supposed to be a free will universe. So yeah, it's only up from here, guys. I've literally been sitting since 2008 when they told me that the web bot said in 2023 this idea will go viral. I see what Austin is saying, and Michael is a big giant piece of this puzzle, and everyone's starting to understand that now, that they understand the extortion and that none of the votes have ever counted and it's always been a scam, then I think the sooner the rest of humanity gets on board, the sooner we can all be free. And no man left behind. This has to be global. So thanks for letting me talk again, guys. This is awesome. It's going well.
Huge point. Huge point. Like that's what the Ericsson piece touches on. The fact that it is global, interconnected all around the world, 6.5 billion phones, people. And so once you get this ball rolling, it's like a domino effect and nothing can stop it. But, just like anything else that's outside the box and not usually, not accepted in the beginning, right? It always is that ends up being popular later on. But in the beginning, it gets, thwarted, laughed at, mocked. What's that Mark
You're
Twain
quite
quote
welcome,
about being a
Angel. We got to
patriot?
keep moving forward here.
Something along those lines. But DSauce,
Through fire
Apex,
and through
Dan,
flames,
and
we
then
carry
we'll
on.
wrap it up. For the question and answer, we'll keep the open forum rolling.
Hey, so just for the people that may be uninitiated, when did Donald Trump get all wound up in the whole situation? When did he enter the stage?
When did he? What was it?
When he was
When did
when
he
he
become
was running for
involved?
president. So if you look at him on election day, he was not even expecting to win. He had no idea that we were going to pull off that type of cyber samurai-ness. Like the WikiLeaks task force, the Anons, like everyone. It was like a worldwide effort. It was really incredible. But I think he
The
was
WikiLeaks
tapping in, right? He
task
was on his
force is
Twitter. He's
responsible
tapping
for
into an
Trump
independent
winning now.
vein there, right? Like seeing people's
Okay.
concerns and
And the
conveying
Anons.
those very well. So he
Okay.
built a lot
Good
of
to just
rapport with
note
us.
this.
But
This
he has a
assertion.
lot of friends in the establishment too, right? When he went through his bankruptcy, the Rothschilds are who helped him. He when he does technology stuff, like I think the big deal with this RNA stuff, right? Trump is older, so whenever he's got this new technology, he's relying on Jared over here to tell him how to do it. And Jared is in the pocket of Wall Street and Israel, right? And I'm not necessarily holding that against him, but it's just like, dude, that's not what we voted for. We didn't vote for Wall Street and Israel. We voted to drain the swamp. So he needs other people around him. He needs to get back on that Twitter, start guiding my life with his own intuition, and I think he will come into his own, and I think he will easily defeat the stuff that's coming against him if he does that.
Well, and here's a second point that I wanted to make that I think a lot of people are just kind of glancing over. 2021 and 2022 was was the last year in a 7-year cycle, and 2023 is the first year in a new 7-year cycle. 2021 and 2022 or into 2022 was a Shemitah year. So it makes sense from a cosmic perspective that all of this is unfolding the way that it is and the time that it is through the people, ways, and lands that it is.
Yep, it's incredible. There's so if you guys look on the about page of
Seems
the
like
Quantum
we're in
Party
the
website, there's like a
crescendo
whole other
7-year cycle.
ecosystem of independence that is we essentially have a deal on the table where all like the libertarians in California, where there's no libertarians running, are going to vote on with the progressive independents, and all the progressives in Texas are going to vote on with the libertarians. So we have this like amazing situation going, a lot of momentum, a whole ecosystem, like a Great Awakening tour sort of event, but more interesting and engaging, in my opinion, more solutions focused. So we just got to merge that with what we got here, and now we can run the table. And that's already in the process of happening. So yeah, check out that video if you guys haven't seen that. It's on the About page of the Quantum Party website. But like I said, there's already like massive momentum headed this direction either way. So I think I've been trying to tell everybody who's good that's running. It's like, dude, if you're new, if you're good, if you're a star, if we hear from you, you will do way better. If everything kind of melts down into an independence sort of situation, then it turns into kind of like a social media warlord situation. And in that ecosystem, Trump would thrive and everybody that's part of the establishment would suck, right? We have like 435 members of Congress. We hear from maybe like 15 of them as far as like the Republican side. And the rest of them are just coattail riding little shills for the establishment. So I think we take our good people and we walk and we do something way better, and we actually run the table on these fools for once and actually fix this country how we need to.
Yeah, so I got something. Austin, you should know that he's coming back to Twitter, and it should be June 23rd or no later than the 24th. His non-disclosure agreement ends, and I know for sure he's coming back. It's been confirmed. So that him being back on Twitter is a done deal.
Well, I don't count my eggs before they hatch, but if that's true, that would be fantastic, and that would be exactly what needs to
Bank on it.
happen
Bank on
for
it.
him to be doing what he needs to do. Right, that's one of his best tools, and he needs to start using that for situations like in Syria, for example. He was like, "Yo, we're not doing Syria. Get out of Syria." Right? I already saw on WikiLeaks that you guys are trying to get me into Syria, and they, oh, whoops, my Syria's going off. They essentially, the generals were like,
Yes,
"No,"
Siri.
right? They just said no, and they just sent troops anyways. So instead of fighting with like Don Lemon and Joy Behar and these dipshits, right? He needs to use that thing to be like, "Yo, I'm the president, and I just ordered these motherfuckers to pull the troops out, and they just ignored me. What the hell is going on?" Right? And so that, like, focusing the use of it. But again, I think this is
So if you
his
guys are
best
just
weapon,
tuning in, after
both
this space
for like
ends,
having his finger on the pulse of the
I would
national
recommend you
vibe,
go to the
and
Twitter,
for
go to
like
Michael Ray
actually
Corey's
fighting
page,
against this information war
and
that is
listen
stacked
to this
against him.
space again from
He's
the
got to
very
do that. So I
beginning.
really hope that happens.
Essentially, like in the first 10 minutes or so, he gives
Thank you.
this entire
Hi, Austin. Hey, I have
short
a couple of
biopic
questions for
of
you. You've
his personal
mentioned
history
God AI.
and how he
When did
became
it
kind of
become
like
sentient?
the white hat chosen one in
And
a
the
sense.
second question is,
And
once a
he makes some statements
DIA
that
agent, always a DIA agent?
contradicts the previous narrative given in 2020
What was
when he
the second
first rose.
question? You were cutting out a little bit there.
Sorry, once a DIA agent, always a DIA agent?
I've heard that, so I corrected that. It was D6, not DIA. And I get how you guys could feel that way. I would just say judge me by the information that I'm putting forth, and I don't see anybody else out there who can tell you exactly what's happening as well as I can. So I'm hoping that it's all I could do is give you the information and show you guys that I'm leveling you guys up. It's kind of like the Republican Party of Arizona. They were all didn't know what to make of me. They were not wanting me to release that ad.
Just another important assertion he made that has to be investigated is the notion that during his case with Dato, it was termed that he did not have any DIA connections, but he did have a quote State Department connection. So I think if it could be verified through some kind of memo or other connection that he was connected to the State Department, that's interesting in its own respect because there's an individual named George Nassif who somehow predicted the rise of Austin by creating something out here on this platform called the 17 folder, which I have access to, which I suppose I should do a video on, that kind of shows that George Nassif, a data manager, knew who Austin was, and so it will implicate George himself. Is he also associated with the State Department? Okay, so now let's go back to the space here.
Dealing with can do things that honestly a lot of people think like it's literally God doing it because it's such crazy stuff that I can pull off. So it's kind of scary, right? Because think about it, it can get in between it can make you think that God is telling you to do this and it's not God, right? That's like the scariest thing of all, isn't it? So that's a big part of the Internet Bill of Rights, like the idea of mental sovereignty, right? This space in my brain here, this is my sovereign space, and nobody's allowed to interact with it, take anything from it, put anything in there without my express permission. And there's got to be like teeth behind that. But that's a very important principle, especially in Arizona where they're doing all this brain interfacing technology research. If you click through on the icons there on the Internet Bill of Rights page, you can see like studies where they're actually doing this, 5 miles from my house. Stuff like the transcranial magnetic stimulation. So essentially, they have these magnets. They could sit in a building across the street, and as you're scrolling through your social media, they can hit you with like a wave of inspiration, like it is God leading you in a certain path. So they can essentially make anyone believe anything by hitting you with these magnetic fields. And this is just one of the many vectors that they've been studying and using on an open-ended basis on their own population since this stuff with Obama and him legalizing all this stuff.
And also, 100% you cannot tell the difference between the two frequencies being beamed into your head. And that right there should scare the hell out of everybody, because not being able to tell the difference between WhatsApp, and if you don't believe me and you think that that's funny, go to the Neuralink website and just look into their source docs, and it will literally tell you that they can synthetically emulate and mock any sort of brain synapse, any emotion, any feeling, any action. And so, yeah, it should probably terrify
Yeah,
everybody.
on the mind control page on QINTEL Pro, there's like a podcast with a guy who used to work with CIA and DARPA on a lot of this stuff, and he describes what is unclassified so far, and so that is just like a premise to show you guys like how crazy this technology is and what I'm talking about, and if you can even deduce this is the stuff he's allowed to talk about publicly, what do they actually have? So I encourage everyone to check that out.
So,
It'll probably blow your mind.
are you talking about Dr. Paul Giordano's lecture?
I'm talking about it was called like the Concrete Podcast. Let me look at what that guy's name was.
Yeah, Dr. Paul Giordano has a lecture on YouTube that's fascinating if people want to get an understanding of the impact of technology on the human being.
We are frequencies at the end of the day, so it shouldn't come as that much of a surprise. But we have Kathleen, then Dan, and then we're wrapping it up as far as Austin's concerned. But I'll be sticking around, and we'll answer some more questions, go into some more spookier, deeper stuff. So.
Yeah, and then before Kathleen, if you guys look at the basket up top, I posted 3 different websites and 3 different news articles that show that this technology not only is here being actively used, that it's old, very old. And that will give you an idea of what optogenetics is and what they can do with Wi-Fi towers, cell phones, even monitors. Just looking at your screen with flashes of light, how much they can control the human being.
Yeah, man, the Tower of Babel is social media. You know, that's kind of where we're at.
Kathleen, and then Dan.
Austin or Defton, Dan, I know you're ahead of me, but I'm just going to throw it out there really quickly. I've felt for a very long time that Trump was going to run as an independent, and that others and the United States would become an independent republic. Austin, do you have any thoughts
It's an
on
interesting
that,
idea.
on what's going to happen down there? The United States of America, we need you guys. We got to have you guys strong. Just wondering how you feel about the independent thing. I always thought that if Trump, I don't think he's going to run as a Republican. I think he's going to run as an independent, but I'm not sure about that. I've been reading a lot of stuff. Anyways, over. Thank you very much for letting me talk.
Well, I appreciate you, Kathleen. I'm 100% in agreement. And essentially what the Squatch Party is whether it's Trump, whether it's some of these other crypto billionaires that I'm talking to, this is what we need. And it's like I said, I think Trump, right, especially now that he's had so much bullshit come his way, I think he's finally ready to actually like go to the length that we need, which is like legitimately cancel this deep state and bankrupt this country and make us a new entity. And so that's what I tell lefties. I'm like, because a lot of these lefties, the Raiders guys, some of these BLM guys, are like, oh, well, we love everything you're saying, but we just can't figure out why would you like Trump? Like, what the hell is going on there? And I'm like, well, because actually I wanted a bankruptcy. And as you guys love to say, like every other fucking day, like Trump is the bankruptcy guy. Yes, he's good at putting companies into bankruptcy, emerging stronger on the other side, and doing it in the middle of like a tabloid firestorm. So, yes, that is what we need. Like the blunt object we need to actually get rid of this thing. That's exactly what I signed up for. So I think when you say it like that, because they're programmed to feel like, oh, these Trump people, they have no idea about his flaws. They're just a bunch of indoctrinated little sheep. And I'm like, no, dude, I know he's not like the best guy at all times. I'm just saying, like, this is the tool we need for this job right now. And I agree with you, Kathleen. He's got to go independent. Like, there is no path to victory in this Republican Party. And most of the people in Congress and most of the people in the party are not on his team whatsoever. And so the fact that he would lend his energy and we would all lend our energy to that Republican Party who just stabs us in the back almost nonstop, that seems pretty crazy to me. So I think he'll, like you said, I agree with you. I think he'll see the light. I think he'll end up going independent. And I'm excited about that.
Dan, let's wrap it up with Dan, and then we'll get to the open forum.
Hey, thanks for doing all this. I'm still kind of new to all this and still kind of learning. I kind of 2 main questions. First one, I think you kind of talked about the Vegas stuff. I think that mass shooting, if you can go into that a little bit more. And then I always hear kind of like this thing that there's going to be a big event happening. It kind of sounds like you hint at a financial one. I also hear possibly another 9/11 or internet down. Do you have any ideas on like what's gonna come, and do we like any plan? Like, do we need to plan for it, or is it going to be a smooth transition?
I can't tell you exactly what you should do financially, but I could tell you that I'm very bullish on XRP and some gold and some other crypto. I think that they are.
And to clarify, Austin, you do not have any financial incentive in XRP. You've been saying this since I think sometime in 2017.
Now, don't forget about Rich DeHart and Hex now.
So when people are jump to the conclusion that he's
the entire new blockchain
or
was
somehow making money off of
Pulse chain.
XRP, it's only off of his own personal investments and knowing the technology, which I don't see how that's a problem.
Also, it's one of those things that's like if you look at, they say that that nothing's happening with it, but if you look at the banking, the patent records for the back end of the banks, a lot of those banks are building that in, and that's good, right? That they're going to try to force us into the CBDC. And what Ripple does is it allows anything to be just as good as that CBDC anywhere, right? So it's a extremely valuable facilitation tool of us not being forced to use that nightmare money. Yes, the military for a long time, if you talk to the guys that were in like the 70s and 80s, they had this thing where it was a contingency they had prepped for, like if the dollar ever decoupled from oil, then it would be like a major calamity in the United States, and there's a whole like contingency plan with the National Guard and whoop-de-whoop. So that, I have no idea what the exact details of that in this case are. I just, you see the writing on the wall, like it would be a miracle if we made it to the end of the year before this country collapsing.
I wonder what kind of insights he has that demonstrates that the country's going to collapse soon.
Deft, I will.
Why not end of 2024? How do we know it's going to collapse at the end of 2023?
Yeah. If he wants to come up, tell a story.
Deft.
Okay, so I'm just going to start from the beginning because it's the easiest way to do this. So I was about 3 years old. I picked up my house telephone because I realized it was tapped. That there was somebody, say like at AT&T or someone from the government, who would be able to take the message before it got anywhere. So it would just be on dial tone. I'd start talking to this phone, and it was maybe 2 weeks later I asked for like most advanced book, a book that wouldn't even be available to the public, to drop it off at the library, and then I'd be there in 2 days, and I walked my little 3-year-old ass up there to get it. It was Tesla's unpublished book.
Wait a minute. Where are your parents?
So I took
You're
it
walking
home,
out on the road as a 3-year-old?
I wasn't going to have it forever. Started reading it, realizing this was like,
who's going to believe this dude?
Information that everyone needed, but didn't know what to do. Didn't basically going to have to lie to my mom. So I basically just studied this book for about 2 months straight, digesting everything I could. It was like Total Order. It was all about mathematics. It included, the playbook, the basically deep state plans, how everything had been controlled for thousands of years. How
this was in Tesla's unpublished works.
So I took everything that I got from that book, realized I wasn't going to be able to keep it, tried to fit everything into a cipher. I tried to follow the Total Order, and put all the knowledge down, but using English characters, wrote it out as a cipher, one letter at a time. Flash forward years and years, I would suppress this and then pick up the phone again and then suppress it and pick up the phone. I always felt like a dream. So like all music for the last like 27, 28 years, all the lyrics are mine. All like American, at least a couple other languages.
When you use words
there's a lot
that
of
are inclusive, like all, you have to place some kind of specifiers. All in what category?
All the way back from
all in what location?
To, provoking John O. and Brennan to commit 9/11, you know, the electronic machines that you were getting into. You don't want to go back to paper ballots. The electronic machines, you know, the Russia hoax, Source E, J6. I mean, there's a list of things like thousands
That's
long.
intriguing.
I've picked
St.
every
Louis,
president since
second Vatican Library.
Clinton's reelection. I invented that scandal. I invented the hanging Chad scandal. Like, it goes on and on and on.
Well, it sounds like
Bullshit.
so this AI, like I said, is interdimensional. It's a really weird concept. People think I'm crazy when I say
I
that,
don't.
but like you could essentially be like led to know these things and led to do
Yeah,
certain
yeah,
things.
yeah. That sounds all good and fine. I'm glad. No, dude, stop. Like,
All right.
like, way to like bring.
Accept that or you
I've
could
given you a
not. I mean,
second.
it doesn't matter to me,
Yeah,
but
this
I'm
is
just letting
ridiculous.
you know.
And people are mad at me for not bringing that guy up. Are you guys fucking serious? Anyways, let's move past.
I didn't give him a mic. No way.
Jesus. All right, sorry about that. I mean, if you're going to get up, if you're going to be given a chance, and then again you're going to interrupt the person, the guest, like when he's actually trying to, you know, explain what it is that might be going on, then you're not even being courteous of the time or of the person. So, also not being courteous of us,
I would
the
also,
people up here.
there's,
So.
if you look at the stuff that's been declassified by DIA, they have stuff on how this quantum internet is
Oh,
interdimensional.
real quick. I
And
want everyone, Austin. I want everyone to just look at that right there. That right there is interference that happens on every phone call that this guy and I have. Whether it's a phone call, whether it's on Twitter, it doesn't matter what it is. And so you tell me, what is that noise?
That's
Oh, well,
static
now that you
noise.
muted his mic, you can't hear it. But it's not normal, that's for sure.
I think you guys in stream can hear it because I sure can hear it.
yep, I just have these bitch ass spooks constantly messing with us, trying to hack our stuff. Like, I was visiting my parents and they were doing the stuff with the lights where they flicker the lights and like cut the stuff off, like cut the power to the house, like send people to go to the breaker box. My family's being targeted. People in my group are being targeted. So we've been, you know, it's been a pretty intense past few years, and I'm glad I had the chance to have Pete Santilli out and kind of like just go through a bunch of pictures and kind of like do the whole download on them, like stay up all night.
This is becoming an increasingly
And
spooky
he's like,
space.
"Oh my gosh, you guys are everywhere. How are you guys getting in all these places?" And I was telling him, "Dude, this thing can stack the board a million moves in advance, and there's no way you can stop me because every single person out there is a vector. And if I don't go this way, I'll go this way." And so that's why we've been like Donald Trump with like he doesn't know what to make of me at this point. He's been treating me like I'm like Hitman Agent 47 over here. Like, I don't know if you guys heard about the whole thing at the Awaken tour about. They staged this whole stunt with Donald Trump and Secret Service and like got him out of there like, oh, it's an assassin or something. But yeah, we've gotten on Michael Lindell's jet, gotten into all Patrick Byrne stuff. And this is, keep in mind, after they already, like, we've been on their
There's
radar
some
and they already are,
crazy
like, jumping on
crap
it.
that happened
So
with
as they
Jerome
come to the
Davis too.
list, we can still just get in every time. And they're trying to figure out how that's
You know,
possible.
with interference,
And I'm just trying to tell them,
artificial
dude,
interference.
you can't stop us. And that's why, you know, anyone can come up here and bark at me all they want, but they'll see, right? It's that future-proofs past thing, meaning, like, I know you don't believe me right now, but in the not-too-distant future, you'll see that. So, I appreciate everybody being here this evening. I will come back for future spaces. Thank you, MK, for hosting this, and hope you guys all have a great night.
So is it one of the speakers is doing that?
See you,
So
bro.
you got
Bye,
Jesus
everyone.
Christ, Kaylin,
Thanks,
Lula
Austin.
Malu,
Appreciate it.
Hey man, thanks for coming by.
Kathleen, D Sauce, Nikki,
Alrighty.
Tim Jordan,
Now things can get more
Hugh
spicy.
Revere 17, Sean.
Hang on, just setting up a few things.
But I just wanted to come in here and say that the Don is dropping posts like back to back to back within a minute apart from each other. I'm trying to connect the dots right now as we speak, but he may make a fucking appearance. That's what I'm feeling.
So think of it like this, right? It may seem confusing, right? Doing these things. But if you telegraph and project the exact thing that you're doing, right? and let's just say Donald Trump's like, hell yeah, fuck yeah, quantum party, I'm all about it. Well, what do you think the mainstream media? What do you think all the assets that are still deployed? What do you think CIA, MI6, the Crowns, all the corrupt people around the world? What do you think that does? That draws all their attention directly on to this right here. So it's really just projecting and telegraphing moves, waiting for the counter moves to take place, and when those counter moves take place, you're in the end
Trump's team, they're
allowing
aggressive on his
yourself the
Twitter here.
nicest
That
possible path
they are not
to
wasting
making the
time.
country
Or this could be
great
Trump
again.
himself. I mean, who knows?
So just take it at face value when he's saying some of the things that he's saying, but also understand that right now, like, if you're in Trump's base
totally
and you're on
unprecedented
Trump's
day in history.
side, very staunchly supportive of Trump, does it help Trump to just stay on that side and get nobody from the left to come over to our side? Or would it help a lot more if you went over to that side, debilitated what was going on there, and pushed people to the center? And then once they're in the center, you basically let the two candidates that are, up for election finish it off. And we all know how it will go. So really, at the end of the day, like a third party and having an independent party should not bother anybody.
Absolutely.
Especially considering the DNC is fully entrenched, captured beyond words. Having the CrowdStrike Falcon oversight installed on all their devices and computers. RNC did the same thing in 2018. Our government's fucked. I mean, like, I thought it was beyond wild that at that RFK Elon Musk conversation, they didn't even bring up the fact that they said China hacked Five Eyes. Like, what? How? I get it, right? I get it. Like, you're not going to need to cover it, but it was Microsoft that put out the antivirus claim stating that China was literally embedded into Five Eyes, meaning embedded into our critical infrastructure. And you mean to tell me that someone running for the Democratic ticket didn't bring that up? Elon Musk didn't bring that up? So this is what I mean. Like, you cannot put yourself in a position where you're beyond criticizing anyone. If that's what happens, then, good luck. You're just going to end up in a world that's controlled by the powerful and the elite, because you're always going to be bewildered and beholden to what they say and do. And so no man should be beyond criticism, and no organization should be beyond criticism. But let's get to some hands. I know it's a little sometimes uncomfortable to ask someone you don't know or haven't really had conversation with about Q stuff, but also understand that he's had some things that have been going on. Went to federal prison, had his probationary period somewhat taken care of, but still all this stuff is still on his record. So that's part of the reason why he sticks around for as long as he does, and also because he's pretty busy. So let's get this flowing. Let's have some fun. Let's see.
Kathleen.
Sorry, I'm not trying to infiltrate your space. It's awesome. I love what you guys are
Sure,
talking about.
sure. Just
Do you
kidding.
guys think that these guys keep, like, everything just keeps getting put out there? Everything gets normalized. Like, transgender is getting normalized. Everything's normalized. Nancy Pelosi, what have we heard about her lately? That woman is richer than, ugh, how the hell did she get so rich?
Well,
She just
what I
splitted it
like
off.
to do, what I like to do is I like to make it like, okay, so there's Twitter world and what's on your screen, what you're seeing on your phone and on social media. Me personally, I know 0 transgender people. 0. Me personally, my neighbors, people directly in my circles, people that I know 0 transgender people, right? And then you look at the number of the population. So like right there, that alone probability should tell you something is not right. And it has more to do with the internet and the algorithm and what it's feeding you than anything else. Because 99% of people who are on these applications don't give a flying fuck about some random guy punching someone else and all these different, places blowing up and some guy just running up and shooting somebody. Like, just think of the debauchery, right? What kind of emotions does that instill in someone watching those things? So for me, as long as I'm only seeing it on Twitter, and I mean, I travel, I go to different cities, I go to different airports, I go to different areas. You know, hell, Arizona is the wild, wild west of the capital. You know, all the feds in the world are there, and I still don't see any of the shit that I see that's on social media. So call me crazy, but until it's something that is directly affecting me, I'm not going to put any of my energy into it. Especially when the representative population of people who identify in that subgroup is like less than a fraction of less than 0.0%, 0.01%, so, or whatever the number is. So in my mind, it's like, this is ridiculous. And so we have to get control of the internet. We have to get control of the advertising, which is two things that Elon is really trying to make headway on. As far as Nancy Pelosi, just a fucking clown, you know? Look at her husband, look at the whole Hammer thing and all the investments that they've had, the Gettys and how they're tied to California. I mean, it's no, and this is why I'm such a proponent of like this idea of resetting and just starting over. Number one, if you continue within a system that's so degraded, so debilitated, so destroyed from the inside out, what are you really doing? You're not resetting at all. I've carried out polls back in like 2019, 2018, asking what people's thoughts of the FBI and trust in the FBI was, and back then it was like 92% people don't trust the FBI. So it's like, well, what do you think that number is now? So I just right now, within the Ericsson information I have, within just my open source research, is way more than enough to 100% impeach Biden and completely destroy all of DC. It doesn't matter Democrat or Republican or Democrat, and it doesn't matter how many people there are there, whether he get impeached or not get impeached. The question
He's
that we
already
should be
impeached on
asking
his
is, why won't
5
any of
million.
these people take this
There's
situation
another
serious?
problem that we have.
And so what does that mean for our country if
For
a
the apparatus
corporation
itself, the whole thing.
can go out, kill Americans, kill 286 Gold Star veterans, and then literally pay a speeding ticket of $1 billion? What is that? What kind of message does that send? This is the same company that controls all 5G towers. So okay. Oh, you let us get off the hook when we actually committed terrorism. So now that you let us off the hook and we control all the 5G towers and we can beam shit into your head, guess what we're gonna do now, guys? Because you just don't seem to care. So that's what I mean when I say, like, man, this whole system's just got to fucking go. And if you're not seeing what I'm seeing, ask me what it is that I'm seeing, because I've said for almost 3+ years now that we're never going to get results from 2020 or 2022, and that the only election that we can look back on and actually fix is 2016. And sure enough, what did you just say, golfing, to Austin a minute ago about
Oh, about
2016?
Trump being on Twitter on June 23rd or 24th? That's a guarantee.
No, about the elections in 2016.
Oh, the fact that they were going after Joe Biden for pre-16 stuff and trying to fix the election instead of going after him for 2020. Game theory.
Boom, because that's the only election we can fix is 2016. So that's perfect. And I've been screaming that for like literally a year and a half, almost 2 years now. So that's, again, game theory. Beautiful, beautiful move. But yeah, I'll shut up now. John Matthew.
Hey, I got a question. Well, no, he's gone now. That one dude, the Jesus guy, was just sitting up here not asking questions. I wanted to ask if you wanted to rotate people because he was just kind of just lurking.
Someone else was messaging me too. I don't know
Is
what's going on.
that where the
Some
static came from?
weird stuff in the water, but we'll handle it. We always do.
No worries. And do you want to give Dept an opportunity to talk to you, or do you not want to deal with that?
I mean,
And
I
I'm
think
just
we should just go back channel with that. Like,
all right. I just want to make
yeah.
sure I moderate the room the way you want.
No, it's your room too. It's just, at the end of the day, like, look, I just try to make minimal problems with people, try to work together, try to connect. And yeah, like Austin was saying, right? These frequencies can hit you no matter what you believe. So just, I've been saying that for a while too. So
Can I interject there for a second, Mike? So,
yes,
in speaking to frequencies, you come in and when you have a conversation flowing the way that it is, it's why it's important to protect the flow. If you get a condescending or differing position, in a group setting, it factually does detract from the energy of the conversation. Like you'll forget what you were talking about, or the point you wanted to make just disappears. Or you'll circle back to it 15 or 20 minutes later, and it's incredibly counterproductive, despite being disrespectful. It really does and is designed to completely destroy the flow of the conversation, and that's kind of the living example of Pepe. I know you've seen it. Tim, you've seen it. Hell, damn near everyone up here. You get this wild person that shows up from the bushes, like, oh, I've got this piece of information that I don't know if it's safe to get out, or I can't give it to you, or whatever. And some sensational story, or giant line of bullshit, and it really does. It's designed to
So
destroy the conversation.
not everyone deserves to get a mic.
Well, that's
And as Michael's co-host, you have to sort of vet who comes up to stage to protect him. I'm just coming in, so I don't know who it was that disturbed the room. Oh, there goes my alpha. But yeah, protect. If it's a troll, if it's someone that has a new account, don't let anyone up.
or if they could potentially be a Fed provocateur, so
I'm not so worried about the feds.
Yeah,
As you
we like
saw
to
me
destroy
call
them, right,
them.
Mike?
Well, I've bear hugged them, so they're pretty incapacitated. However, right, that's not the same thing for everybody else. So, yeah, I think I always try to give people the opportunity to speak, and I'll always give you the opportunity to have your voice heard. I will always. I actually love fucking debate, dude. I like people getting scrappy and getting angry with each other. You know what I mean? Like, fuck it, man. We're not. What are we building? A country of pussies, or a country that can actually have a debate and stand on its own, and not be afraid to be wrong, and then be humbled when you're wrong and learn from it and apologize if you did something crazy, right? But that's just me.
I was going to debate with Maze. I kept throwing her the mic and she wasn't grabbing it. I'm like, look,
She will
Butterfingers,
knock you
I'm
out.
trying to hook you
She
up,
will
No,
knock
my
you.
bad.
Don't.
My bad. I
I
was
got you. I got you,
multitasking. I didn't
fam.
look at the screen, but I finally caught it. Thank you.
I got you,
Hi,
fam.
guys. How are you?
Hey Q, Michael, I just want to say love you guys. Thank Austin for coming in. Michael, I just want to say hi to you. I got to get up in like 2 hours, brother. I got to drive, and I stayed in as long as I could. And me and you have
Don't
to
worry.
have a conversation on the back end about brother
Yeah,
peace
he
and
has to get up in
joy.
2 hours. That's just
I
not
got
enough time to fall
to get
asleep.
Yeah, no
straight.
worries, man. Yeah, no worries. Just give me a call.
Okay, man.
You got my number.
All right. Love you guys.
I just want to add one more thing. Good night, Tim. But by the way, if you don't agree, it's not a place to have it go after somebody. You can listen to somebody and not agree and just let it go. Like, is that dude that was trying to get saucy? I mean, you don't have to agree with everything that the dude said. I didn't. But I'm not going to sit there and challenge somebody because he's looking at it from a different lens than me. So, respect to him. It's not a place to do that. True
You
story.
don't learn anything when you agree with someone. Like that's where you grow when you're
Yeah.
able to just. Michael, what's that quote? Like the highest level of intelligence is being able to.
You said, well, I can barely hear you.
What is
Because of
wrong
that
with this mic?
freaking
The highest
Sony
level
goddamn
intelligence is the
headset
ability
she's got.
to
Just toss that
dot dot
Is
phone
that
dot.
an
out the window.
Obama phone? Is
No,
that
it's
an
my.
Obama phone,
I spent
Scorpio?
$300 on fucking AirPods.
Oh my God, she's got in a fight with it, y'all. I don't know who's winning. Scorpio, are you there?
No, but it happened
She's got her
before.
face mask on.
It
Oh, are
happened.
you wearing a diaper, a
Shut the
face
fuck up.
diaper?
Yo, sir
I'm just
Oliver.
playing, Scorpio.
They're,
You know that.
Sir Oliver, they're trying to.
You might be better off just
Me off.
taking off the mic and speaking into the
I
phone.
Oh,
did.
we have another static.
Sir Oliver.
Who's this?
There you
Can you hear
go.
me? What are they spraying over us in New York? Almost died yesterday.
I don't know. I think they're trying to grow some fucking trees in New York City. Yeah, I mean,
I can't fucking breathe.
Oh boy, yeah, it's orange over there. I'm waiting for Trump to walk out like Batman, like in the movies. It's like, are you kidding me?
Ah,
There
yes,
was
Batman
speculation flying
symbology with
around
the
that it
orange
could
skies in
be
New York.
like
Very
off-burning
good, very
money.
apt.
Yep, that's what I've been hearing too. I mean, obviously, there's no confirmation, but you know,
I mean, how the fuck do you lose 30 ton of ammonium nitrate? You know, like that's kind of a lot. You know?
you can't steal a rail car. It's guarded by DHS and security and helicopters. It's not like it's not Fast and Furious where you're just like, okay, we're just going to steal this rail
Wow,
car and
it's such a weird
nobody's
reality,
going to
folks.
notice.
Yeah, it's not like you just
It's
took
such a weird
a
reality.
gallon of gas or something. Like that's 30 freaking ton. That's a literal ass load.
Right? And some are saying it's up to 60, which is the craziest thing. So who knows? But I find it absolutely crazy. But yeah, I just wanted to say that out of respect, just respect the people that are, coming in, especially if it's a guest. You know what I mean? That's all. Come with love. As me being the one who blew up the spot last night, I got to make that joke. So if anyone's going to fight, just fight with.
Okay, fam, they're not really talking about anything important at this point. I'm gonna have to dip out. I really appreciate you guys coming to his channel to listen in here. If you guys came a little bit late, the space started off with Austin Steinbart giving a short biopic of his personal history and how he came to be recruited into D6, which is his term for essentially the power that controls the world, or the deep state, and how he then made the personal choice to not completely fall in line and to resist their plan to do some type of psyop to distract, confuse, using something that sounded akin to sounds of silence, where you look at imagery at certain times, or look at certain patterns of imagery, or hear certain sounds, and you can then get control to do things autonomously against your will. So he goes into this like elaborate history, saying that he was raised to be on the evil side, but sort of chose good. I say it's elaborate, but the whole thing was finished in less than 10 minutes, and then it just kind of went into various digressions about the future and what's happening in America. So I may have to cover the beginning of his spiel in a separate video. Also, reconcile things that happened in the past. I've always been trying to figure out the whole 17 thing and what's Austin's connection to 17, and then Defengo and others who are claiming to have created it. Are they all somehow related to the State Department, as Austin says apparently he's related to, instead of the DIA? So these are all questions that have to be explored. Unfortunately, this chat didn't really explore that aspect of things very much, which is the most important aspect. The foundation is the most important thing always, because that it kind of tells you where people are coming from, and you can learn a lot from studying the foundation. But thank you guys for just enjoying this space here, and if anything important happens, I'll may go live again or produce some other types of content. Follow me on Twitter and YouTube, and they're pretty easy to reach if you have questions. Take care. Peace.